What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, doing another collab for the Patriots matchup on Sunday versus the Raiders. What better way to talk about this matchup than to have my boy Spotlight Raiders on the channel, the top authority for the Raiders. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great coming off that big win against the New Orleans Saints Monday night. Now it's time for us to focus on the Patriots. You know, this is like kind of a rivalry. It goes all the way back to the Tuck rule. So you know how the Raiders feel about the Patriots. So I'm ready to look forward to this game on Sunday.
Yeah, and I feel like I always hear that. Everyone's really still trying to jam the Patriots. Everyone wants to get that payback on them no matter what. Everybody has some type of feeling towards New England, it seems like. So it's always a good matchup for these teams. And, you know, before the season started, I was like, it's the Raiders, you know. But since coming and seeing what you guys have done within the first few weeks, I'm impressed. I am impressed. I like what you guys have done. I think last week was a good picture on just what the Oakland Raiders can do, and that they're not just below league. They're not at a position where you should be compared to the Jags or you should be compared to the Bengals or anything like that. So, you know, what are you feeling about this matchup? How are you feeling about this matchup coming for this upcoming Sunday?
I'm feeling this is a great matchup. I think this is a matchup where both teams are neck and neck. Like we both had questions coming in at the receiver position, knowing that, you know, y'all lost Tom Brady and Gronk. And then, you know, we lost, we didn't have Amari Cooper for a few years. We lost Michael Crabtree. We don't have many receivers. You know, Tyrell Williams is out. So it was a lot of questions coming in at the receiver position. And I think in the head-to-head is good. I think both quarterbacks are playing stellar within the first 2 weeks. Derek Carr is playing well with no turnovers as well. I think Cam got one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But he's still playing up to good football. We saw Sunday night against the Seahawks. He went up there into that 12th man and played well. And we went into Carolina with a good Teddy Bridgewater, and Derek Carr played well. So when it comes down to it, I think our team is neck and neck. I think y'all probably have us better because of your defense. But our defense is pretty young. But I think this is going to be a good head-to-head game coming into this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like you said, so like my big question, this is a little bit off topic, but like as a Patriots fan, I want to know this. I don't know if any other Patriots fans do, but I feel like they do. What happened with I'm blanking on his name, former Patriot Jeremy Hill? What happened with Jeremy Hill? You guys signed him, he came on, you released him. What happened?
For what I know, I think he just didn't fit the system when it came to it, because we brought a few running backs in. Theo Riddick, we brought him in as well. He ended up being on the practice squad, but Jeremy Hill, I think they was just doing it because the depth at the running back position. And think about it, before we traded Lynn Bowden Jr. to the Miami Dolphins, we had William Stanback, which he was released as well, Josh Jacobs, Jalen Richard, Devontae Booker. We just had a lot of running backs that we had to get rid of, and Jeremy Hill was one of them. I just think he didn't fit our system. I mean, we signed up, then we released him at the same time. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I know the running backs that we have now, I really do like. I think we still need a little bit more depth just in case one of them do get injured, but I do like where our running backs stand right now.
Guys, real quick, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my boy NFL Broadcaster. There will be a link to his YouTube channel. First link in the description box below will take you right to YouTube so you can check out his channel, subscribe to him. Basically, they do what I do on YouTube, except they do it for all of the NFL. They do it on really some really big news, the biggest news around the NFL, but also some of the little news also. And they will 100% get you the fix you need for all of the news you need around the NFL. They cover all 32 teams, not just selected teams, so you will get news on every single thing updated in the NFL that you'll need to know. And like I always say, guys, make sure you're educated about all of these NFL teams because you're going to want to stay on top of the news involving other teams that the Patriots are going to play. You know, whether a guy's promoted, traded, signed, injury, anything like that. Very notable that could really change the aspect of a game for the Pats, whether it's win or lose. So make sure you check them out. Again, link in the description below to get all of your NFL news. Yeah. And, speaking of running backs, I know that Josh Jacobs did have a little bit of an injury scare. I'm not completely sure what's up to date with that. So can you give us kind of like what is happening right now with Josh Jacobs? Is he expected to play this coming week? And if he is, do you think he's going to be limited?
I don't think he would be limited. I think it was just like a thigh bruise. It wasn't nothing too crazy where he had to sit out the rest of the game because he ended up getting back into the game. From what I've heard, it was a thigh bruise. And he did get it rubbed on when Jalen Richard came in, Devontae Booker came in, and then he came right back out there and finished the game. So I think, most likely it was a thigh bruise. I think he would get most of the workload. I think he will still get about 20 to 25 carries in this game. But I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to limit him as much because it's only week 3 and we don't want to hurt him like we did at the end of the year. So, the most I'll say 20 carries, and then Jalen Richard and Devontae Booker would split the carries.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for sure. So, kind of pigging off of that, and this might be the strength of the team. Josh Jacobs might be the strength of your team. It might be Derek Carr, like you said, or it might be something else. So, I mean, personally, what would you say that from the first 2 weeks that you've seen the Raiders, what would the strength of the team be?
The strength of our team would be our tight ends. I think our tight ends is our very biggest strength with Darren Waller, then having Foster Moreau come in. And then now you have a veteran in Jason Witten that could teach those guys how to be better tight ends because those two guys are still young. We still got Derek Carrier as well. We don't see him as much, but we do. I think our tight end position is one of our strongest suits on this team. I don't know if you saw on Monday Night Football where they try to line up linebackers and corners and safeties on our tight ends, and Derek Carr was just exploiting that Saints defense with our tight end position. Now, I would like to see our bigger wide receiver like Brian Edwards to get involved because he's just as big as Darren Waller. But I feel like right now, tight ends and the running backs is our strongest suit when it comes on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And so kind of switching into the weakness, I'm going to take my guess, and we're going to have to see what you say. I would personally say that your weakness, let's see if I can get this right, is going to be your defense. From what I've seen, your defense hasn't really done too much statistically. You haven't really recorded much statistics as for interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks. When I was looking at that, you guys haven't even put up really much fantasy points from your defense. So what would you say the weakness of the Raiders is?
If you look at the Carolina game in that first half before Nick Kowalski went down, we only allowed 15 points in that first half. So once Nick Kowalski went down with that torn pectoral muscle, that really hurt our linebacking core. It definitely put pressure on Raekwon McMillan that traded from the Miami Dolphins to us. He still got to get understanding of the linebacker position. We still have Corey Littleton back there, but we did get our first interception as a defense on Monday night. I just think our pass rush had to be better. I think our rotation has to be better on that defensive line. I think running the football, we only held Christian McCaffrey to under 100 yards. And Alvin Kamara under 100 yards. Well, I can say Alvin Kamara was good in the passing game. I think our front seven could be better, but I think our back end has to get better too. I think we're very young back there. We really don't have no veterans back there at all. But yeah, I have to say that our defense is our weakness. But I think when it matters, I think we stepped up against Drew Brees, especially, getting pressure on him. Didn't get any sacks, which I'm still waiting on for us to get a sack. But Paul Guttner got to do something to make this defense more creative to try to confuse quarterbacks coming in, for the games that's coming up.
Yeah, and so for the first 2 weeks of the season, you guys haven't really faced mobile quarterbacks, really. Now, I'm not sure too much how Bridgewater did as a rushing quarterback. I'm not sure if he scrambled too much. I know with Drew Brees, now and then he will, but for the most part, kind of like Tom Brady, he wants to be more of a true pocket passer, stand tall in the pocket, and do the work with his arm. So have you guys really had to face a scrambling quarterback yet?
The only I can say Teddy Bridgewater when he does stand up in the pocket, but when the pocket collapses, he does scramble. He did that a few times and got a first down on us against the Carolina Panthers, but we really haven't had a mobile quarterback like a Cam Newton, coming into this week. So for us, the key to try to contain him is just make sure we can try to contain him, QB spy, something of that nature to try to contain Cam Newton. But it's going to be tough knowing that this guy he could throw the football. We can see that shoulder is healthy, and we got to contain him running the football too, because that's his biggest element. That's his strongest suit is using his legs. So hopefully our defense can make adjustments, be creative, and try to keep him in the pocket as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, kind of to piggyback off of that a little bit, from your standpoint, what does the New England Patriots have to do to come out of this game with the W?
I'll have to say is that challenge our corners and our safeties. Because mind you, I really don't know too many of your receivers besides Julian Edelman. But Julian Edelman is not really a number one or number two, like an outside type of corner. Wide receiver. He's more like a slot. He's more like inside. But your outside receivers is where it's going to be the battle at. Your outside receivers versus our young corners. So I think if y'all could take advantage of our young corners, then y'all could beat us. I know that I don't know about James White if he's going to play this week, which I don't think he will. I think he shouldn't, in my personal opinion. But Sony Michel is going to be another one that could probably, get some instances in the running game. But I think our defense can stop the running game. But I feel like your receivers could definitely get one up on us when it comes to our corners, because we got a 1-year corner and we have a rookie cornerback. So we really don't have no veterans back there besides LaMarcus Joyner. So other than that, I think that's where we could get exploited at.
Yeah, for sure. And, from the New England Patriots standpoint, last week against the Seahawks, that passing game really did extremely well. The big bulk being Julian Edelman, though. The dude was this close to eclipsing 200 yards. Just insane. And, of course, it's not like the Seattle Seahawks, though, have a great secondary, They have Jamal Adams. That was probably their biggest piece. But heading into the game, they didn't have a great secondary. And then they just kept getting jammed with injuries, even in that secondary throughout that game. So, could it be a little bit more tough here with the Raiders? Yeah, I could potentially see it do so. And like you said, look, Julian Edelman, he can play all over the field, but mostly he's a guy who plays inside the middle of the field. So, N'Keal Harry and Zamir Bird are really those two other guys. The Patriots are really rolling with like the three big receivers here. And when I say big, I don't mean tall, because Zamir Bird, Julian Edelman, obviously not two tall guys. But last week, Zamir Bird had, actually I can give you the exact statistics. Last week, Zamir Bird had 6 receptions for 72 yards, and N'Keal Harry had 8 receptions for 72 yards. And then you had Edelman with those 8 receptions for 179 yards. So Edelman's going to be that big one that, you guys have to cover. N'Keal Harry is starting to pick it up. As for Zamir Bird, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys were able to kind of shut him down. He's a guy that is really fast, ran a 4.28 at the combine. So he's really supposed to be our speed wide receiver. Has not showcased that yet. So I have a little bit of concerns there with the wide receiver group. But, like you said, the Patriots are a team that has just gotten a little bit more dynamic since Tom Brady left. Last week, they tried to pass the ball. Week before that, week 1 against the Dolphins, it was a lot of running the ball with Cam Newton, with the running back group as a committee. So, as your defense, what would you say is more of your weakness? Would you say it's more tough for you guys to stop the run, or would you say it's been more tough for you guys to defend the pass?
I think it's more of defend the pass than anything, because the last 2 games we didn't have a 100-yard rusher. I think we can stop the run. I just think that our back end is where the issue is at on our defense, is those corners. I think our linebacker core has gotten better. We used to be the worst linebacking core in football until we got rid of everybody in Borden Littleton, Kowalski, and and McMillan. So I think we did bring in some good quality linebackers. It's just that our secondary is so young with Jonathan Abram. You got to think about him. He could he could go against the run. He could go against the pass. It's just that strong that free safety problem that we have is with Eric Harris. But I feel like when it comes to our safeties, I think you're going to rotate it between Joyner and Harris. And I think that might help us out a little bit more when coming into this game.
Yeah. So sadly, Pats fans, it sounds like this isn't really going to be a week one type of matchup. I do expect Cam to be Cam Newton, scramble outside of the pocket, try to extend the plays like always if he does need to. I do think your pass rush is probably going to be better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks don't have much pass rush, but still were able to get some type of pressure there on Cam Newton. As for the Patriots running back group, it hasn't been too special. Guys like Sony Michel, I think Patriots fans all around are getting super, super tired of Sony Michel, not able to do anything, has still been that featured back and just can't do anything. He's a guy who relies on good tight end, blocking tight ends, good offensive lineman, and he has both of those, and he just still is not able to do anything. I hope the Patriots do give some more looks to UDFA running back J.J. Taylor. He seems to have a really good burst. Damian Harris, of course, isn't going to be back for this game, still has to miss for IR. So it does sound like this is going to be a situation where the Patriots are probably going to look to pass the ball a lot more. But of course, it's going to be a situation in game where, hey, if the running game ends up being something that works out really well, then they're going to do that. I kind of think that's something that hurt them a bit last week, is that they weren't able to run the ball successfully at all. Cam Newton was the best runner that the Patriots had offensively last week, which kind of goes to say something. Like, he was by far the best runner that the Patriots had offensively. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I think that says something. The fact that the Patriots were not able to run the ball successfully, keep Russell Wilson off the field, it kind of hurt them. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. So you could see a lot more of Cam Newton rushing if that ends up having to be a situation. But recently we did find out that you guys placed, I believe it's your right guard, if I'm correct, on
Richie Incognito.
On injured reserve. So he's going to be missing the game. A pretty fair loss for you guys. How do you feel that's going to affect you?
We already missing Trent Brown, and we're already missing our backup Sam Young. But I feel like with Tom Cable, when it comes to this offensive line, we had John Simpson come in and play very well against this good New Orleans Saints defense last week. He didn't allow a sack. Denzel Good is improving, but I do like our offensive line coach at Tom Cable, where he's making sure that everybody on the offensive line play every different position on that line. So when you're time to switch it up, you know what your assignments are when you come into being on that offensive line. But Richie Incognito is a huge blow. He's going to be out for 3 weeks with an Achilles injury. Trent Brown, hopefully we could get him back this week with a calf injury. If we could get him back, then we might, shift some defense offensive alignment around, and hopefully we can keep Derek Carr clean. I know we gave up 3 sacks in the first half, but he didn't allow anything in the next 3 quarters after that. So if Derek Carr can stay clean, then he could get people the ball, but we got to make sure that offensive line is good to go.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really intriguing aspect here. This is going to be like a win-lose situation, I feel, for both of us, because, your offensive line, it's beat up. We all know Trent Brown. We know what aspect he brings, especially as Patriots fans. You're going to be missing your right guard. Obviously, that offensive line is banged up. But if you look at the Seattle Seahawks offensive line, it's not one of the best in the NFL by far. And again, they were dealing with injuries. And even then, the Patriots weren't able to get too much pressure on Russell Wilson. Now, is Russell Wilson able to scramble around, escape the pocket better than Derek Carr? Yes, but still, that doesn't beat the fact that the Patriots were not able to get much pressure, and that was the same thing week 1. So I have a lot of concerns here for the Patriots pass rush. The linebackers they have, obviously that's pretty depleted after the guys they lost this offseason to free agency, to opt-outs. So this is going to be the week for the Patriots to prove that the pass rush can do something, because they're going to have to play much better offensive linemen than the Seahawks, than the Raiders. And if they still can't get pressure, I think that that's a question mark that the Patriots have, and it's a scary one too. I'll be curious to see if guys play this week that have not played in past weeks, because I feel the Patriots are using September as their preseason because we didn't actually have a preseason. So they're kind of using the first few weeks of September as their preseason to really navigate which guys should go where and how to do this. But Cash Maluia, the linebacker, I'll be curious to see if they give him his first snap ever in the NFL. Josh Uche, who we drafted in the second round, I'll be curious to see if they give him any looks, if he's able to come back. And I think if they are, maybe the pass rush gets a little better, but either way, it's iffy. And I think that is one of the big things that the Raiders have going for them. That's something they have to take advantage of, is that the Patriots pass rush, it's not what it was last season.
Now, my question for you when it comes to your Patriots defense, now, we have a few speedsters on our side. Now, how do you feel that your linebackers and corners go up against our receivers like a Nelson Aguilar that has been playing well in the last 2 weeks? Henry Ruggs is a speedster. Just imagine if Derek Carr can connect with him. How do y'all defend Darian Waller and Brian Edwards and these guys? So how do you feel your defense holds up against the weapons that we have?
It's tough. It's a tough one, but I feel like they'll take a page out of the Kansas City Chiefs book. You know, they of course have a really good tight end in Travis Kelce. They have a speedster in Tyreek Hill. So in my book, I would not be surprised to see the Patriots put a Jonathan Jones, who is our fastest corner, on a guy like Ruggs and then give him some safety help over the top, and then kind of try to place a safety, whether it's probably not going to be Devin McCourty. They'll probably put Devin McCourty in that free safety. They'll keep him back there. So either a Kyle Duggar, the rookie, but probably an Adrian Phillips against your tight ends and go from there. If it's a situation where your tight ends are just going off, they might have to switch it from putting that safety on Ruggs, putting him on then your tight end instead. So I kind of think that's how that is going to match up. The Patriots aren't going to do something, at least that's what we've seen in the past, and I hope that doesn't change now, where they'll put like Stephon Gilmore on your speedster, JC Jackson. You got to fare your matchups based off of speed, and when you look at it, put Jonathan Jones, who's able to keep up with him and who's a good cornerback, on your top speedster, and that's probably going to be Ruggs, and then give him some safety help over the top that should be able to shut him down. And then I feel like the biggest part after that is going to be just shutting down your tight ends, especially Walker, because he's a top tight end in the league. I don't think anyone can disagree in that. I love that guy. That is one of my favorite tight ends in the league. Also have him on fantasy, so it's another week where I'm kind of like in a win-lose situation. Do I want him to do well? Do I not want him to do well? So that's a tough situation. As for our linebackers, like I said, it's depleted and they are slow. That's going to be the issue. We only have one true linebacker on this roster in Juwan Bentley. They have him doing a lot of stuff. They tried to put him as the quarterback spy on Russell Wilson last week. Did not understand that. He's a more pound the ball type of guy. He's not a fast sideline to sideline coverage guy. So that definitely gives me concerns. I think if you guys want to exploit something, do it within the middle of the field where our linebackers play, because that's the area to do it.
Yeah, I really think this game going to come down to the trenches. I think it's going to come down to pass rush and quarterback blocking. I think it's going to have to, offensive line blocking. It's going to have to come down to that, because both of these quarterbacks is going to need a pocket, or they're going to need somewhere to step up into the pocket and try to find something open. We all know Cam Newton can run. We see Derek Carr run a few times on Monday night's game. He did slide a few times, but I think it's going to come down to the trenches. I think it's going to come down to if we can get pressure on each other team's quarterbacks, or if our defensive lines, can actually show up. Because I don't think y'all had a sack last week against Seattle, did y'all?
I think we had about 1.5.
Okay.
So yeah, we got a little bit of pressure here and there, but it was not consistent. It was not consistent whatsoever.
Yeah, same here. It wasn't like we got to Drew Brees. We did pressure him, but we didn't get a chance to sack him. So I think it's going to really come down to the trenches on who wins this game more than anything.
Yeah, so that's a great way for my next question. This is going to be my final question. Of course, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. But what is your final prediction for this game? Who do you think is going to come out with the win, and what is your score prediction?
This is a tough game. These Patriots, we got to go into New England like we're not home. This is a very, very tough game. And if you notice, our first 6 weeks are tough. We got majority of the NFC North and the AFC East in our first weeks. We have Carolina week 1. We had the Saints. Then we have y'all, and then we have Buffalo in week 4. So
Okay.
yeah, week 5, and then week 5 and 6 is Buccaneers and Chiefs. So it's really a tough 6 weeks for us. But I feel like this is going to be a close game, just like the first 2 games. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be high scoring, just like Monday night's game. And I'm going to keep the same score, 34-24 Raiders, just because I feel like if we can keep the momentum that we did in the second half, we scored them 30, almost 17 unanswered points against the New Orleans Saints last on Monday night. I think if we can pull that off, if we can play to our speed and play our game and be fundamentally sound, because everybody need to know the Raiders is always good for getting penalties. In the first 2 weeks, we only had 6 penalties within the first 2 weeks, which that is great on our end. So if we can stay fundamentally sound and keep the penalties away, I think we win 34-24 Raiders.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, I think that this could definitely be a game that goes back to back, especially to start the game. I could see this being a situation where we go into halftime and the Patriots come out and they're like, okay, we need to get this together. And then they finally get it together coming out after the half. And it becomes a game where towards the end starts to become a little less close. I'm hoping that after the performance we saw last week, that Patriots defense gets it together. Like I said, this could be a week where we see some rookies getting their first game ever in the NFL, possibly Josh Uche, who could help out the Patriots pass rush. I'm hoping they put on Cash Maluia, who is really our top speedster coverage linebacker. But that's a big if. Of course, we don't know. So if they're able to pick it up on defense, I'm going to say the Patriots win this 17-28. Interesting, right? Interesting.
Very interesting knowing that we scored 34 points in the last 2 weeks. That's kind of interesting.
I know. It's tough. And I think that was my big thing. I was like, oh, that's tough. And I could see you guys getting into the 20s pretty easily. I think 17 was a bit of a stretch. But I just know that this defense can be motivated coming off of that loss, coming after seeing how bad they did against the Seahawks. This was the best defense last year. And so far, they haven't looked good. Stephon Gilmore, he hasn't really looked that well. This whole defense needs to pick it up. This could be a situation where it takes them a few weeks to get back into football. So, I'm hoping that the Raiders is the game they get back into it. But honestly, it could extend a little past that. So, look, if the Patriots defense does not show up again, and it's going to take them a little longer to get it together, then I definitely see you guys 100% scoring more than 17 points. But if this defense is able to get it together this week, and it's at home, so maybe this is where they finally get it together, then I could see holding you guys at 17 points. So I think it's just a really big if depending on which way it goes. So I'm really just crossing my fingers for the defense picking it up, which is why I'm going with that 17.
And that's how I feel about my Raiders as well. I feel like that we're very young, but mind you, we had a weird preseason. Yeah. We had a weird offseason to a point where we wasn't playing against nobody. We was playing against each other, especially for all 32 teams was playing against each other. And I think our defense is going to mesh. I think the stronger we get, if we don't have less injuries, I think we'll be fine. I think it's just the 2 weeks. We're still trying to learn each other, new faces, rookies. It's just for both teams. I think we're just all trying to mesh and try to get that continuity within our teams. But I think it's going to be a great game at 1:00 Eastern Standard Time. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, no preseason, all the teams trying to get it together. And I think that with Gruden, you guys have a really good head coach that is putting stuff together throughout the past couple of seasons. But I also think that you've built together a pretty good roster. You have some pretty good names that are able to get it together. But like you said, literally no offseason. We only got a couple weeks of training camp, and that was about it. You're trying to condense everything very much in together. No 4-game preseason. So luckily enough, the Patriots are playing you week 3 still pretty early. So it's going to be a big question on, can you have it a little bit more together than you have had the past 2 weeks, despite playing pretty good games. So I am thankful that we're not really playing you guys like a little bit more mid-season towards the end of the season, because I think you guys would have it a lot more together, and this would be a much tougher matchup. But is there any other questions you have before we sign off on this one?
I don't have any other questions. I think we covered everything when it comes to this matchup. I'm excited for this matchup, and I'm ready for the challenge because the last 2 weeks they have a lot of the whole world have not given us a chance. They thought a lot of people with this schedule, they thought we was going to start off 0-2. Now we're 2-0, second in our division to the Chiefs. So, I'm just ready for this game. I'm just ready for the game, and I'm be hyped about it. I'm definitely gonna be hyped about it.
Me too, 100%. Guys, go ahead and check out Spotlight Raiders. I will put a link to his channel in the description below. Like always, guys, top authority for the Raiders. You are going to want to check him out, especially because, guys, again, we play this team on Sunday. You're going to want to get all the news about the Raiders so you know what to expect for Sunday's game. I cannot stress that enough. Go ahead and check my boy out. Like always, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to my channel here at Patriots Global for all of your New England Patriots news. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right.
In Astro World.